Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we continue with the House of Bloodstein, Mentralysis, Part 2, Chapter 12, Helios-Mason. I have to be a little bit quiet. It's 2 in the morning. Our brand new Boston Terrier puppy named Junie is sleeping in her little playpen right next to me here, and I don't want to wake her up. This chapter, Kay, Laika, and Ultra Sarah in holographic form arrive on Bazz, the bastion of their current enemy, the Jones, and their leader, Queen Gome of Trimble. We discovered last week from Growth Above George that Gome has something up her sleeve, and they don't quite know what it is, but they know it's significant and substantial, and whatever it is, they can't quite put their finger on it, but they are walking into the belly of the beast, so to speak, here in the Joneses' backyard. They don't really have much choice. They need to get Sam's parts, they need to get Queen Gome, and they need to get the objects of Wilhelm of Wham, so that Rothaba of George can live. She can be more than just a dream over a Mentralysis broadwave. She can actually be a walking, talking, living, breathing, excreting person. And that is the ultimate goal of this little expedition, but it seems like they're walking into a trap, and Kay knows it. This is a longish chapter. As I said, it's about 22 pages. I want to get through this as quickly as possible without waking my little dog up. So, with that in mind, let's proceed, shall we? Part 2, Chapter 12, Helios-Mason. Kay buttoned his vest, pocketed his Poltava, saddled his Karg, and went out. Ahead, through the front glass, the misty aqua-blue spear of Bazz hung large like a celestial robin's egg. Laika was standing next to the unoccupied pilot's chair, closely watching the landing sequence process. She had on her boots, but still hadn't finished donning her composite armor. Kay smiled and tried to put the seduction incident behind them. "Did you get some rest, Laika?" She turned and held up her composite armor. "Would Jarl Khan help Laika with armor?" Laika turned around and Kay fastened the various clips and straps holding the heavy piece in place as she slid her 6 arms into the sleeves. "This thing looks very uncomfortable." "Armor comfortable," she said. "Much better than Hlantha's armor. We'll need to replace your banded mail pants, and your boots are looking a little old too." "She's not a dress-up doll, Kay," Sarah snapped, appearing in the pilot's chair. "Keep flying, Sarah. As soon as we get this matter settled, we're going to get Laika proper fitted clothes." Sarah sighed. "Whatever. About 10 minutes and we'll be on the ground. There's no need to cloak us or anything. We're just standard haul traffic." The Ultra plunged into the formless haze of Bazz's thick atmosphere. The size and weight of the ship made the normally bumpy ride through the rough air fairly smooth, though Laika wasn't impressed. "Fly ship better, Sarah," she demanded. "Too much V4. "Shut up." Below, the tumbled and meteor-pocked landmass of Bazz appeared through the murk, fully terraformed and filled in with warm water. The prominent Endax Sea to the west was clearly a flooded ancient crater. The newly created wind and weather cycles would smooth out the land, and the jagged scars of Bazz's primordial past would erode away. But for now, Bazz enjoyed a uniquely wild and pugnacious topography. The water, greenish-blue, danced with churned-up minerals and fresh sediments. It looked oddly inviting to Kay. Nice and cool to wade in and have a nice splash. Wait! The creeper! Water! The creeper wanted him in the water so it could emerge. He forced the thoughts from his head. The Ultra came down nice and slow, quietly merging into the well-traveled lanes with other ships from all over the league. Kay thought the lines of traffic looked like strands of hair floating in a bowl of soapy water. "Here, Laika, take over and follow the heading I've preset." "I'm getting tired of flying," Sarah said, stepping out. Laika hopped into the seat. took the controls and flew like she'd been doing it for years. She gripped the control sticks with her middle set of arms, which seemed to be her preferred set. With the lowest set, she adjusted dials and flipped switches. Her topmost pair did nothing. "Great work," Kay said, patting her on the shoulder. "I wish I could do that." She beamed with the compliment. "How are your gifts doing, Kay?" Sarah asked, scanning him. "They're back. I tell you, if I see that stupid plant again, I'm gonna freak out. It was horrible. And the fact that its residue is in my head and ready to parasitize my brain is enough to send me screaming. You'll be fine. Raw and his cronies will have it out of you in a jiffy. But, and I hate to break it to you, the Jones love using that plant against gifted enemies. Don't think you've seen the last of it, because you're going to be seeing it a lot more. If I see anybody coming near me with one, they're getting shot, and I'm not joking." "Speaking of the Jones," Sarah said, "I was able to briefly hack one of their less well-defended portals. Looks like after kicking your butt, it came in and had a ceremony featuring a visiting dignitary of high regard at their main sanctum in Helios-Mason the other day." "I suppose we can guess who that is," Kay said. "Yep." Then the dignitary and a contingent of Jones headed out to their research facility in Gallia, which is just west of the city. I'll bet all of our stolen stuff's there too. Gallia Palace. That's where she is right now, ripe for the taking. Once we're down, we'll need to formulate a plan against the Jones. This time, we'll be operating on their home arena. Well, you didn't have Ultra Sarah with you last time, did you? Trust me, we'll do it from the ground and be absolutely secure. Laika, bring us in." "Jarl-Khan does not lead Sarah," Laika said. "Why don't you just call him Kay?" Sarah asked. "You're going to give him a big head or something, and I don't need that. I've got to live with this guy." "Because Jarl-Khan has earned Laika's respect and devotion." "Oh, that. You do know as soon as Sam's back on her feet, you're history, right?" "Sarah, please stop antagonizing her," Kay said. "Just keeping things real." Laika flushed up. The southern continent of Bazz grew large in the glass. Laika followed the fairly heavy traffic moving over Helios-Mason, one of the larger cities on Bazz. The messy sprawl of low, iron-wrought buildings came into hazy view. To the west, near the coast of the Index Sea, was a great collection of smooth black spears pushing high into the sky, dappled with red lights and golden struts, dominating the surrounding skyline with obsidian glassiness. "That's the Jones sanctum over there," Sarah said. "Too bad we can't just haul off and put a full spread into him just for dragging us to Bazz." A transponder signal came in. "Laika, follow that signal. That's our ship park. We're not landing in Helios-Mason. We're heading west to a little place called Willem Lester. We're supposed to be picking up a load of Zamuda in a day or so. I faked everything, even an illegal loadout. If you want to look legit, be illegit." "If you're faking everything, then why not fake us something legal?" Kay asked. "Oh, please. What fun is that?" Laika veered away from the streams of traffic over the city, following the route west over the dry Bazz countryside to a small city huddled up against an impressively high wall of black stone that ran north and south. "That's the Gallian Wall," Sarah said. "It runs all the way from the Index Sea to the ocean, about 500 miles. Sarah regarded Kay intently. "How you doing? Is the water freaking you out or anything?" "No, Sarah, I'm fine, thank you." "What's the wall for?" Kay asked. "It's to protect the Gallian Tor, an endangered beast that roams the Gallian plain. It's sacred here on Bazz. The wall is to keep the people out." The beam Laika was riding led them to the outskirts of the city, to an isolated yet secure ship park just outside of the city proper. A mixture of high and low rent shipping, some needing a paint job and some body work, was scattered about on their platforms. Laika skillfully brought the Ultra down and landed it with hardly a bump. Sarah called up a holoscreen. Okay, I'm gonna set the ship's engines to idle at 5,000 mags, so my hollow emitters will have a maximum range without attracting any unwanted attention. She rapidly adjusted the settings on the screens. The Monties are online and ready to go should we need them for surface-to-surface action. Great, let's move out. Laika checked her lag pistols and slung her new DD rifle over her shoulder into its holster. She tied her bag from Carahill's store to her belt. Kay cloaked Laika into invisibility and altered his appearance. Sarah shut off her hologram visualizations and faded into invisibility, though Kay could sight her holographic lines of force. They piled out of the ship, Kay instantly withering in the humid Bazz summer warmth. Heat, humidity, was like a wet glove all around him, a flexible, unpleasant membrane from which there was no escape. Sarah shut the hatch and locked it behind them. "Gods, it's hot," Kay said. "Quit complaining, will you?" Sarah replied. "You should feel what it's like to be in the damn coffin I'm in back on Hoban. It's so cold in that capsule, if I had boobs right now, they'd be standing on end saluting. And I'm getting fed hot mush through a straw. Now that sucks." "Laika, are you okay in this heat?" he asked. She nodded and took her place at Kay's side. "Let's find a good inn somewhere in the center of the city. That'll be ideal for our needs. We'll need one with a dense D-band into the Bazznet," Sarah said. "I saw a few adverts for a place called the Inn of the Hidden Surprise. They had a pretty decent hollow temple. I think that will do nicely." "We don't have time for an inn, Sarah." No, an inn will be perfect. Perfect! We can patch into the Bazznet network and send an untraceable message off to Rawl and his hospitallers on Hoban to see if they have any intel for us. The Jones won't be able to trace nothing. Hardwired into the Bazznet, I'll fix it so they'll never find us. They wound their way through the twisting streets, wrought with brick and iron, and filled with sweaty locals wearing gaudy clothing, and pungent with the strong smells of the red, spicy food, characteristic of Bazz. A noisy people never shy about public dramatics. The Bazzers filled their ears with shouts and casual cursing. Bazzers pushed and shoved each other, yelled from balconies, yelled from street level, turning minor disagreements into a full-blown spectacle right out in front of everybody. "Very warlike people," Laika remarked, seeing all of this happening around her. "Yep, you'd love it here," Sarah said. Ladies with the usual sickle-like Bazz sideburns presented themselves to Kay as he passed, twirling them around their fingers and winking at him. They lingered in doorways and at the top of stairs. Some, smoking pipes filled with muddy-scented tobacco, blew impressive smoke rings at him. "You know what the sideburns mean? The Molochs, right?" Sarah asked. "It means they're unmarried. A Bazz tradition." "More than that, it means they're looking," Sarah said. One of them, holding a tray of steaming baked goods, tried to give Kay a friendly kick on the shins. He had to restrain Laika from drawing her swords in reprisal. "They're making it plain they're interested in you, Kay," Sarah said. "Shin kicking is a Bazz thing. I kinda like it. Kane is too bland and proper sometimes. You like somebody? Go ahead and kick 'em one in the shins. Let him know all about it. I gave Raw a nice boot to the shins the other day. You should have seen him." "Why?" Kay asked. "'Cause I like him. He's smart. He's really good at what he does. Think he's handsome, too. What do you think? You see me and Raw as a couple?" "No," Laika answered. "Sarah will not be very pretty when Laika is finished." Kay laughed. "Sarah, I think we're finally seeing a little deviation between yourself and how you are when you're awake. Rawl is not your type at all. You don't fancy intelligent men. You go for meatheads. You always have. Remember you had that big crush on that idiot Lord Merc from the House of Park? The man was a disgrace." Sarah wrinkled her nose. "Ew, I don't want to court a dumbass. I want to have a conversation. I want to find out things. I'll bet the walking around me goes for the knuckle draggers to get an edge or something. That sounds like something I do. Well, I like Rawl just fine. I guess you're going to have to get my head on straight or something. I don't want an idiot. I want a man who looks good and thinks fast. I want Rawl. Maybe tonight when he's in bed I might just have to show him how well these Finducers on me work. All of them. It's pretty cool I can be here on Bazz saving your butt and there on Hoban getting all snug with Raw at the same time. Hey Kay, promise me you're gonna have a talk with me, okay? Yeah, sure. Kay wrinkled his nose. The smell of the food alone is making my nose hurt. Smells good to me, Sarah said. Too bad, I wish we had time to grab a bite. I love Bazz food. It's got heat. Sarah cannot taste, Laika said. I fixed that problem, Small Fry. Give me one of those jawbreakers. Come on. Laika refused. They entered a square in the heart of Willem Lester, lined with wrought iron shops and cafes pungent with spicy aromas, laced with hints of wild animal smell and a dash of body odor. Seated in the center of the square was a jostling crowd of Bazzers, each one invading the personal space of the others. Foreigners from across the league were scattered about, some seeming rather nervous, while others took in the controlled chaos all around them with glee. Some had atmospherics hired to create them a personal bubble of cool air to squelch the pounding Bazz heat. Kay rather envied them. He hated the heat. Members of the Jones were seated here and there in the square having lunch. Some were getting nickel and dime by the locals hoping for free medical advice. Laika and Sarah were cloaked, and Kay had altered his appearance, so they passed without issue. The Jones sitting out there giving me the creeps, Sarah said, gazing at them with caution. Not all Jones are in the service of Queen Gome, Kay replied. Yeah, but which is which? At the far end of the square was a landscaped inn, curly with iron terraces and painted brick walkways, lined with exotic Bazz plants, bursting with tropical color. It was a place clearly too expensive for the locals to afford, and they eyed it with scorn. Here's the place, I think, Sarah said. This one? Kay asked. He read the sign. The Inn of the Hidden Surprise. Seems like a decent establishment. Yep, Sarah replied. It features a dense D-band connection to the BazzNet network. It's also air-conditioned, Kay, which I assume you can't live without. Thanks, Sarah, he said. I wonder what the surprise is. Even as a hologram, Sarah loved hanging around inns and ordering room service. She reached into her holographic duster and pulled out a cred stick. Here, use this. She handed it to Kay. What's this? He asked. It's a holographic cred stick. I programmed it up myself. It works just like the real thing, and what's better, it's got a fake meta trail so that if the Jones happen to scan it, they'll think we're from Tantan. How's that for thinking? So this will be an honest transaction? The innkeeper won't be cheated? Laika beamed. Jarl Khan is honorable. Of course he won't, Sarah replied. This cred stick's hooked into the Hospitowers account on Hoban via back channels. This one's on Raw, and he'll be lucky if we don't order a big lunch or something on his tith, Sarah said. The Jones aren't playing around. They've got an army of network engineers snooping for us high and low rent. If they catch wind of our trail here on Bazz in their backyard, it's on. Dubious, and with the cloak Laika flanking him, Kay approached the innkeeper and rented a suite with the holographic cred stick. The transaction went through without issue, and they moved through the complicated courtyards of the inn dotted with benches and swimming pools. Had they not been on a specific mission, it would have been an interesting place to explore. All the hidden alcoves and little turns and swimming pools. Kay stared at them. They seemed so cool and inviting, so calm and clear, to plunge in, to allow the water to wash away the layer of Bazz heat and filth. Hey! Kay found himself lifted into the air by Laika, dangling from her hand by his vest. He was dripping wet. He thrashed about. Laika set him down, keeping a firm hand on his shoulder. What happened? He asked, coughing up water. You jumped in the freaking pool and sank to the bottom. That's what happened, Sarah said. Tootsier had to fish you out. Remember, this creeper business is serious stuff. Until you get rid of it, you cannot be expected to control yourself. She glanced up at Laika. Got it, babe? If he jumps in the damn water, you pull him out. Slap him up if you have to. Laika watches over Jarl Khan, she said. Laika protects Jarl Khan. Well, at least you're earning your keep, Sarah said. Come on. They pressed on until they found their room deep within the lacy labyrinth of the inn. Laika hovering close to Kay. He unlatched the door. Inside was a spacious, cooled room, complete with 2 bedrooms and a private terrace that looked out onto yet another swimming pool. "Charokhan, Laika wishes to become comfortable," she said, removing her weapons belt and tossing it onto the couch with a clank. "Go ahead." She laid her Didi on a chair and wandered into one of the rooms. Kay soon heard the shower come on, while Sarah immediately began fooling around with the room's networking equipment, pulling out wires and boards and conjuring hollow screens and displays in midair. Kay, drenched, watched with awe. It was like witnessing the professor at work. "You really know what you're doing?" he asked as he wrung out his hair. "Yep," she replied, as screens whizzed around her head. "I'll have us all set up here in just a sec, and we'll be untraceable. I'm going to increase the power a little from the Ultra, and then we hunt Queen Gome." She flicked her hand across the air, and a hollow screen appeared, and she rapidly worked the controls. "Is there any risk in doing that with the power?" "Sure. The Jones could detect us if they are monitoring the Bazz net, and if they're actively looking for us, which is a distinct possibility. They might more easily discover our location. But I think we need to risk it. We can't let Queen Gome get away from Bazz. We'll never find her again if she escapes back into Zaffin space." He shut the thick drapes and locked the doors. Sarah fiddled with her displays. "Look at that. The Bazz net's in the mud. Oh, the Jones are looking for us all right. They're slowing down the whole network with all the sub-processes and traces they're running. They've got their hooks into everything. If we had cred-sticked lunch or sent an open comm to Cana, they would have made us instantly. But, thanks to me and my mad skills, they think we're still on Cana." "You did that all just now?" Kay asked. "Oh, okay. My boyfriend Rawl and his cronies on the Gold Coast and Tariff Nor helped out a little. Just a little, mind you. Gonna be here a while sorting this out. Why don't you scope out the Jones and see if you can get a visual? Taldaroga and What's-Her-Name should be west of here in their testing grounds at Gallia Palace. Don't go outside unless you need to, and are cloaked. The Jones are probably sat scanning for us as well. They can make us from orbit just by scanning the top of your head." She took note of his drenched clothes. "You should get changed and mind the bathtub. Honestly, we're going to have Toots monitor you at all times when you're near any sort of water or water-bearing vessel." "Change into what? I didn't bring a change of clothing. It's not like we had time to properly pack for this trip." "They probably have a robe or something in your room. Go on, I'll be a little bit." Kay wandered into his room and searched the closet, finding a thick robe made of some sort of plush Bazz fabric. He changed into it and laid his clothes out to dry. The room was fairly nice and clean, with cool air clanking steadily in through a vent. A glass door opened up on a sunlit patio. He closed the drapes and checked the door. Could be Jones out there, he mused. Through the bathroom door, he heard Laika bumping around, having her shower. He imagined her, giant-sized, leaning over, water dripping off, and covered with soap. He found the bag from Carahill's store and fished around through the contents. He pulled out the Sam action figure he had tossed in. He took in her pale, delicate features and coal-black hair. So beautiful, holding her jar that would one day carry their children. He placed the box by the head of the bed and felt comforted by his presence. He wondered where King was with the container and how he was getting along. He should be arriving on Hoban right about now. He relaxed and let his sight go. It felt so good to have it back after having it squelched by the Horvath creeper. His sight drifted through the confines of the room, through the iron and brick hive of the city, and headed west to the massive wall at the edge of the city proper. Kay scanned the wall. It went all the way from the Index in the north to the South Bazz Sea over 500 miles distant. Beyond the wall to the west was a great yellow plain, sweltering in the heat. Farther and farther his sight stretched, surging across the arid Gallian plain. The plain was quite deserted, save for wild Bazz animals roaming about singularly and in famished packs. He continued on. A compound appeared alone in the vastness of the plain. Gallia Palace. It was a sheer black square, turreted at the four corners in a stark, unrecognizable style, rising up out of the flat Gallian plain like a battlement-studded fortress built for giants. It looked very out of place in wild Bazz, surrounded by an immense curtain wall and carpeted with landscape grounds, green and lush with pumped-in water. Kay saw the perimeter of the compound was crawling with Jones in their opera cloaks and white shirts. Hired security, armed with an assortment of weaponry, also prowled the ramparts. Inside was a collection of stained wood and other bits of artwork and finery, unabashed in its opulence. Kay became dimly aware of the bathroom door opening as he sighted. Laika, slick from the shower, poked her head out and entered the room, a cloud of steam following her. She selected a shirt from the Carahil bag and sat down on the bed next to him, the bed spring squeaking. "What does Jarokhan see?" she asked with wonder. "I see Gallia Palace, miles away. Many Jones there." Kay continued his covert long-range scan of the Jones compound. He found beneath the structure a great gathering place or meeting hall, sheathed in polished black marble, veined with rivulets of gold and burnished amber. There was a semi-human distorted statue mounted at the end of the hall. It was made of hammered gold with acid green eyes. The statue was displayed with reverence. It was a monster of some kind. Could that be the Belathauser creature Tal Daroga had mentioned in such glowing terms? The pinnacle of human perfection. Moving on, Kay saw a honeycomb of lower levels stretching far beneath the compound, rather like Rawl's Hospitaller sanctum on Hoban. Several levels below was a hydroponics garden growing thick with large fibrous plants sporting a carpet of frosty white flowers showered with mist and vibrant artificial light. He shuddered. The Horvath creeper, a plant he had come to dread and whose spores waited in his head to erupt like a golden grenade, was cultivated under Gallia Palace in abundance. He hoped in the coming battle he might have the opportunity to burn that garden down to the ground. If he could make the creeper extinct on Bazz, he would do so. Kay continued. He saw Jones moving about here and there, along with Bazz servants and other comers and goers. Wait. Mixed in with the Jones at the palace were some of his house staff. He recognized their faces. They were wearing summer touristy clothing and strappy sandals, as if they were on an exotic holiday. Some were arm in arm with the Jones as they strolled the lavish corridors of the palace. Some were sharing their beds. He picked out about 20 of them, including Andorra, his mother's personal assistant. She was barely dressed. It was shocking to see her in such a state. Their presence would, as the Jones no doubt intended, greatly complicate matters. Sighting further, he dreaded seeing Queen Gome, the evil waking half of the saintly Rothabah of George, wearing Sam's face. He really didn't want to see her in such a situation. He had no idea how he would react. Would he be sad? Would he be disarmed? He had no idea how he would feel. But in searching the palace high and low, he couldn't find any trace of her. He sighted a lavish bedroom in one of the towers of the mansion, complete with servants coming and going and continuously refreshed trays of drink and food. He saw a rumpled grand bed get made with care and fresh sheets. He saw baths drawn and tables set with scintillating feasts. He saw a boudoir of grand mirrors and marble tables fully stocked with wooden bowls filled with rare powders, brushes, combs, boxes of jewelry, and other things that a wealthy woman of reverence would have. Yet Kay saw no sight of her. What did Rothabah say? That Gome had access to vast arcane powers and that were unique and undocumented. Perhaps she could cloak herself from Kay's sight, just as she had the security cameras in Castle Blanchford. He was certain she was there, that she haunted the corridor, sat at the boudoir, bathed in the water, ate at the table, and slept in the bed, and was somehow evading his sight. He might have already passed over her, unaware of her presence. She might be sitting at the boudoir even now, looking at Sam's face reflected back at her with Sarah's eyes. She was so much more than the humble, horribly stricken woman she had passed herself off to be at Castle Bloodstein. Though, what had Rothaba said? Lady Chrysania is innocent. A lost soul drifting in their head. Moving on, Case located a side building near the main house. Inside were dozens of studious-looking Jones sitting at sophisticated-looking holo terminals. They were busy crunching data in long streams. Must be the engineers Sarah had mentioned, searching the Bazznet for traces of their passing. Ah, there was Taldaroga. He was standing majestic on a terrace near the top of the palace, wearing his baggy white shirt and cloak fluttering in the breeze. Kay's face stung a little, recalling the expert pounding Daroga had put on him. His ability to zoom in with his dark sight and kill point blank like he was standing right there worked even at this vast distance. He had never done such a thing before. Vith honor held him. His father, Captain Davidge, would do no such thing, even if he had the ability to do so. To assassinate an enemy from afar with no help of defense or retaliation, it was unheard of, unthinkable. Sam in her capsule, faceless. Kay squared him up, zoomed in, erasing the miles between them. To assassinate an enemy without care or fuss. Kay had always treated his enemies with fairness. But for Taldaroga, a man who had desecrated his home, hypnotized his staff, attacked with full battle array, who beat him near to death, who infected him with a parasitic spore, and injured his loved ones, he who was in the service of the enemy, where was his gun? All he had to do was fetch it, aim, pull the trigger, and Taldaroga would know the price for his folly. He was ready. Laika, he mumbled. He heard an answer somewhere in the distance and felt a soft hand touch his shoulder. Can you get me my Poltava, please? The bed springs squeaked. A few moments passed. Laika bumped around the room. Then, Jarokhan, pistol. She placed it in his hand. He felt the cool, familiar smoothness of his Poltava come into his grip. He cocked the hammer and aimed. Taldaroga's death was but seconds away. But as he attempted to zoom in and lock on, Daroga's image flickered and faded out, only to reappear elsewhere. He couldn't lock on. Rawl had told him the creeper spores embedded in his head would foul the workings of his gifts, and here it was, foiling his efforts. He blinked in frustration, was back in his room at the inn. Laika was sitting next to him, damp from the shower, her long hair draped over her shoulders in wet strings. What does Jarokhan see? She asked. Taldaroga, miles away. I was going to shoot him dead. My gifts are too erratic. I couldn't zero him. Kay! Came Sarah's voice from the main area. Kay! She said again, come out here, please, now. Kay warily stood and put his pistol in the pocket of his robe. Get dressed, he said to Laika as he exited. Sarah was sitting at the table, crunching data. Hollow screens rolled around her head. It was quite impressive to see. Did you see the palace? Sarah asked. I did, and I saw Taldaroga there as well. Data whirled by. I've got a silent tap into the Jones network, and I don't like what I see. Why? She pointed at a screen. Words printed off at a high rate of speed.
Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? We know you're here.
We'll start killing them. We'll kill them all.
What's this? Sarah asked. Who's them? Probably our staff. I saw about 20 of them in Gallia Palace dressed like they're on holiday, including Chief of Staff Andorra. I tried to assassinate Taldaroga, but I couldn't zero him. My gifts are too erratic at the moment. With the staff there, they probably would have executed them if I had done so. Sarah threw up her hands. Great. They probably want us there on their home turf, safe and sound, using our staff as human shields. They probably want you to start signing over money to them or something. Kay puzzled over the data. Rothaba mentioned something about that. She thinks Queen Gome is after something besides just Sam's face. Oh yeah, Sarah said. She wants our stuff and our cash too. Why not take it all? Let me get with Rawl. He might know something. Until then, we need to lie low and figure out a plan. Got it? The Jones are probably hoping we'll just rush right in. Don't make any comms, whatever you do. They laid low for the rest of the day. Sarah manipulated the Bazz net carefully, looking for a way out into the system without being detected by the Jones and their army of prowling network analysts. Kay dressed in his newly dried clothes and went out to get food, Laika coming with him. Disguised and cloaked, they found a noisy market and shopped around. Laika had a healthy appetite but was surprisingly picky and tender of palate. Finding things she would eat was tough on Bazz, where everything was drowned in volatile spices and thick, pepper-laden sauces not to her liking. They bought raw meat, breads, vegetables with mild, familiar spices and took them back to their suite. Sarah was working away when they returned, making slow progress in creating a safe tap into the Bazz net. Damn Jones! They're mucking everything up, she complained. I think we should mount up, cloak ourselves, and hit them, Kay said. We get Queen Gome and our staff and lay havoc on the Jones in retaliation for their Castle Blanchford escapades. The sooner the better. That's easier said than done, Sarah said. We're going to be outgunned, outflanked, and operating on their home turf. We need air support. We need something working in our favor. We have the Ultra and its Monties, but those automated Jones Winger ships flying around up there will shoot it down in no time. It's too slow. We need something fast and light on the helm. Something like the Goshawk. I'm doing a low-rent search around the Broadway, so I'm looking for Philip and Thomasina. Enough of the lovey-lovey stuff. They need to get their butts over here, and they need to bring the damn Goshawk with them. Pronto. Meat sizzled in the kitchen as Laika squeezed herself in and made dinner. She was eager for Kay to eat her cooking. Sounds good, Sarah said. Smells good, too. Soon the cooking was done. Kay and Laika shared dinner while Sarah continued to struggle with the Bazz net. Ah, finally, I've got a tap out on the Bazz net, and the Jones will never know a thing about it. I'm getting my guy Rawl, Sarah typed at blinding speed. A few minutes later, oh wow, hey Kay, come here. Kay sat next to her. What is it? You won't believe it. Listen. Sarah brought up a low-power audio cone. A tiny, wheezy voice spoke in the background, draped in waves of static. Hey, Kay. He was elated. He put his plate aside. Kai, is that you? Yeah, it's me. Kai's voice sounded drawn and weary, a far cry from her usual rough and ready tone. Are you all right? There was a pensive pause. I've been better, that's for sure. Use a nip. Hospitallers won't put anything in front of me but water. It's like I'm in the bloody Marines again. Can you believe that? Tweeter's here keeping me company. They heard him happily chirp in the background. It was a comforting sound. Kai was out of the capsule and whole again. King had succeeded in his mission to Hoban. Rawl and his Hospitallers had done it. Now that Kai was out of danger, it was a load off Kay's mind. Now he could take a breath. It was one less thing for him to worry about. She spoke again, and this time her voice was elevated and clotted with emotion. Next time I see you, Kay, I'm gonna punch you in the face. You got that? Why? They heard a noise come through the cone. It sounded like crying. Kai's voice was bloated with tears. He had never heard her like that before. Ever. Why? You fifth bastard? Because I'm sitting here next to the capsule containing my son's body. Why didn't you tell the Hospitallers to save my son instead of me? Why? My little boy. Kay didn't know what to say. Because, Sarah said, jumping in, Sebastian is stable. He's doing fine. You, on the other hand, Kai, you big pain in my ass, were critical and ready to go headlong into an insanity curve. You would not accept the RDP. Go figure you'd be the problem child in the group. My son is more important than I am. Kay composed himself and jumped in. All right, let's not go down this path, shall we, Kai? You were gonna die, and that's a fact. You want your son to grow up without his mother, do you? How can you expect us to have to stand before him someday and admit that we allowed you to perish when you could have been saved? Your son is a big old tough bat, just like his mother, and he's fine for now. You, on the other hand, needed out of that capsule in a hurry, so you can be mad at us if you want, but we made the right decision. Look at the choice I had to make. I chose you over Sebastian, over the staff, over Sarah, and over Sam too, because your need was the greatest. How do you think that made me feel? But I gladly did it because you're my friend. Yeah, Sarah said. Don't forget right now, I'm just a couple rows away eating my baby paste dinner through a extruder. There was a delay on the comm. Then, okay, I see your point, and thanks. Sorry, you know me. Forget it. Your job is to get better. Our job is to gather the things we need to get your son and everybody else out of those capsules as soon as possible. I feel better knowing you're there with Sebastian and Sam, watching over them. Hey, Kai, Sarah asked. What? Sarah giggled. Watch this. Over the comm, Kay heard a distant sound. Boo! Sounded like Sarah's voice. Kai gave a start. Kay heard her chair slide across the floor and tip over, as if she had suddenly stood up. Holy creation, Sarah! Where did you come from? I'm a hologram, baby doll. I can be in lots of places at the same time. I'm on Bazz with Kay, and I'm right there with you in the infirmary. Nice, huh? Sarah was ear to ear smiling. Listen to this, Kay. What was that? That was me knocking on the side of my capsule, Sarah said with glee. There it is. There I am, inside, laid out like a loaf of bread. Isn't that creepy? Over the comm, Kay heard Kai pick her chair up and reseat herself. Crazy kid. This must be right up your alley, isn't it? She mumbled. Anyways, it's good to see you, Sarah. Thanks. Hey, do you remember dreaming? Kai's voice was distant. Hell yeah. I remember dreaming in bright colors. It's weird. My dreams are usually pretty monochromatic, I guess. I remember something about a beach. Nice blue water. It was the big blue in Onaris. I'd know the water anywhere. I'm pretty sure I was seeing Fazo. Lots of tourists, lots of pale, untanned skin, lots of sunburns. Standing there in my old Marine uniform, I think. I was the only person in sight wearing boots. Dang tourists. Philip and Thomasina were there at a little inn by the sea. They checked in under some weird name. I banged on their door and told them to knock off the baby making and get dressed. Philip and Thomasina were at Fazo? Sarah asked. Yeah. They got married in a temple of all down there. I dreamt I was sitting in the chapel by the sea watching. There was no baton like they use in Vis ceremonies. I passed the baton for your mother and father and for you and Sam, Kay. I kept looking for the baton. I kind of like it. Phillips never wanted to have a Viv-style wedding. He's not just showy enough, I guess, Sarah said. Kai continued. Afterwards, Thomasina was walking around in a beach dress with no shoes. Her hair is black to brown again. I can't stand that. Green, brown, pick a color and stick with it. Anyway, yeah, you're right, Sarah. They said they wanted to be alone. No big Vis ceremonies. I'm pretty sure she's already knocked up and all. That was fast. Gonna be an aunt, Sarah said, chuckling. She called up a floating holoscreen and input data. Kai, do you remember the name of the inn you saw in your dream? It was the Bridgewater Inn. I remember seeing the sign swinging in the sea breeze, Kai said. I remember dreaming about it. I was having a nice cold Omnaris beer sitting on the bench, and I could see the sign. Sarah pounded data fast. Well, look at that. Here's the data temple for the Bridgewater Inn on Onaris, Fazo, just like you said, and there's Philip and Thomasina, checked in under the name Lord and Lady Illabuck. Philip loves using that name as an alias. Remember when we were kids and he'd call down to the village and order grog under the name Mr. Illabuck? I had to get them a truckload of pizza sent to their room or something and hit him with the tab. Kai waited a moment to respond, her voice a dry rasp. I must have gotten lucky or something, right? It was just a dream, right? Nope, Sarah said. Why not? Because we gamed you up to keep you sane, Kai. A gaming session is a hyper-energetic mentralysis state achieved by introducing stenotarsin into your brain. What What's that? Kai asked. It's an acid. It puts a lot of tension on your synapses, and it's really not very healthy for it to be there. But it helped protect your sanity while you were on ice. Gave you something hard to focus on. It was a risky move, but you're a risky sort of person, Kai. Gamers often have very accurate dreams of places they've never been before. Kay jumped in. That reminds me, Carahill's daughter, Atha, did mention to ask you for information, Kai. She told me that twice. Carahill's daughter? Kai asked. Yep. No, he had a daughter. Did you dream of anything else, other than my brother and Thomasina consummating their marriage? Sarah asked. Any info you can give us would be great. There was silence over the comm for a moment. I also dreamt of a demon, Kai said. She paused for a moment. No way. I dreamt of Sam. Sam? It was Sam, but she was really creepy and mean, too. Not like the Sam we all know. I saw her looking through the windows of the chapel while Philip and Thomasina were getting married. I about jumped out of my chair. I thought it was a demon, but it was Sam. I could feel her looking at me. Kind of creeped me out, and I drew my gun. She fled and dragged this girl off to the beach. What girl? Kay asked. Some girl. Said her name was Chrysania. Maybe it was Lady Chrysania of Bloodstein. Kay and Sarah exchanged glances. Kai continued. Sam dragged Chrysania into this weird underground tunnel, and I went in there after her. Inside was this long corridor lined with glass cases, like you'd see in a museum. What was in the cases? Stuff. Treasure, I guess. It was Sam's stuff. Just stuff that she liked and kept out to look at every day as she passed by. Something important was in those cases. She didn't know what she had. What things? Kay asked. No, I don't know. Just a feeling. And then the corridor ended in a large, walled-in enclosure, and the sky was yellow. Not on Onaris anymore. Where were you? No clue. It wasn't Onaris. Last thing I remember, the courtyard I was in was piled with stolen treasure. I think it was Castle Blanchford treasure. I think the machine was there, piled up with the other stuff, still in its silver-tech disguise. There was something in the sky, flying around, something big with wings. An airship? Kay asked. Kai's voice was drowsy and slurred. No, it was a monster of some kind, a big one. It reminded me of a Walpole. What's a Walpole? Kai. It's a little type of dragon with 2 legs. You guys need to get with Onaris lingo sometime, you know? Anyway, that's it. Don't ask me because I don't remember anymore. It's making my head hurt. Sounds like a heck of a dream, Kay said. Something happening in the lab distracted Kai. She turned from the cone, her voice acquiring a distant, far-off sound. Hey, are these weird machines down here supposed to be making all these creepy breathing noises? Hey, can one of you look at this thing, please? Kai, don't give the Hospitowers a hard time, all right? Sarah said. Just relax and get better. Yeah. You wanted me out, so I'm out. Rest easy. We'll be in touch soon. Sarah cut the connection. Kai sounds like her old self, doesn't she? It was good to hear her voice, Kay said. Do you think we can really rely on her dreams? They sound rather fantastic to me. Gamers' dreams are pretty potent and almost always very accurate down to the smallest detail. I've already established that Philip and Thomasina are getting it on in Fazo, just like Kai said, and Atha said to seek her for questions. You know what? I think the Walpole Kai saw flying around was Gome's Bower chest. That might prove it exists. I'm gonna do a little digging. And you know what else? I'm feeling a little hurt. My brother goes off and gets married and he doesn't invite either of us. I'd have brought Rawl as my date. It would have been nice to get him out of his Hospitower uniform for a change. You're not exactly presentable right now though, are you? Kay said. Sarah, never presentable, Laika said as she plated up a second helping of food she had prepared and brought it out to Kay. Thank you, Laika, he said, accepting the plate. She sat down next to him and began eating. Kay finished his plate and set it aside. More, Gyrocon, Laika asked. No, Laika, thank you. It was very good. Sarah, I'm wondering if we haven't been approaching this situation completely wrong-footed. What do you mean? I mean we, or perhaps I should say I, have been under the impression that all of this is a result of Queen Gome's desire to wear Sam's face, steal her parts, and have it her money. I took it for granted because Sam is very beautiful, so why wouldn't Gome wish to wear her face? Laika made a noise as she ate. as if to offer a dissenting opinion regarding Sam's alleged beauty. Sam's way hotter than you are, Toots, Sarah said, even with the extra poundage she's put on recently. Don't think I didn't notice. Laika scowled. Rothabu told me some things while we were inbound on the Ultra, Kay continued. She said there are actually 3 people inside her head, not just her and Queen Gome. Lady Chrysania is another waking self, subservient to Queen Gome. You mean the lady we spoke to at Bloodstein wasn't Queen Gome in disguise? No, it was Lady Chrysania, and she told us what she thought was the truth. Sarah thought about that for a moment. You know, that sort of makes me happy. I liked Lady Chrysania, even though I got mad at her a few times. Lady Chrysania is sort of a go-between, and she told Rothabu that Queen Gome loathes monomas, had a bad experience with them once, and never wanted to wear their parts again. So, if she despises monomas, why has she gone to these lengths to go after Sam in particular? Why has she gone out of her way to defile our home, to enrage me to the point of madness, ensuring I would follow her to Bazz, the bastion of her Jones followers? She's not exactly fleeing back into Zaffin space, is she? Taking her good sweet time and left a trail for us to follow, as if she wants me to go after her. Kay paused a moment. It's all so clear to me now. Sam was just the bait. It's the bloody machine she was after all along. I'm certain of it. We have been incredibly naive, Sarah. Carahil himself said the machine is a miracle, one of a kind. It can do things even the gods cannot. He admitted it. With the machine, no place, past, present, or future, is beyond one's reach. I saved Sam through the veil of time itself with it. The bloody Wonderlux from Remnav tried to kill us over it. I'm pretty sure Carahil uses it all the time, too. How arrogant were we to believe that such an eminence in our grove would not attract infernal attention? Sarah, even in her holographic form, fidgeted. Oh, how did she know we had it? She didn't at first. That's the whole point. She must have heard rumors that the machine had been recovered, probably from Wilhela Corman Grand. After the destruction of Ethelrelda's temple, Wilhela said she sent her Gogan specters out looking through the ruins for the machine's arch. Couldn't find it, because we had it. And then she started writing op-eds, stating her belief that the machine had been recovered and put back together. Queen Gome must have read those postings and started searching for it herself. Look at the Wonderlux. They were strutting around their holdings in Remnath, claiming to any who would listen that they had it. Clara Wonderluck even built a sham iron machine and put it in their warehouse as proof they had it. Gome must have caught wind of that, and using the helpless Lady Chrysania to hide behind, lured them to Bloodstein to determine if they actually did have it. Remember when Taldaroga came by and visited with you in the Firth house? He said he had toured many great houses searching for information. When you told him under hypnosis about the machine in the grove, he reported back to his master, and they set us on a quest to recover Wilhela Corman Grand's Perlamum pieces, just to see for certain if it was in our possession, to see if we would use it to collect the pieces, which we did. I am now convinced the Jones have lured us here to Bazz to capture and force us to deactivate the Silvertech protections around the machine so they can give it to their mistress as a gift. Sarah took in the info and it made sense to her. So now what are we gonna do? If we attack, we're walking into a trap, but we can't let Queen Gome escape, and we can't let them have the machine either. No, of course not. And Gome still has the dust and Sam's face. They don't have the powering stone, and the machine is still protected by its Silvertech defenses, so it must be deactivated for now. We'll probably have to hire an army to get the machine back and keep the sisters from being alerted. I'm not jeopardizing Sam and you and the rest. He pushed his plate aside and closed his eyes, allowing his dark sight to drift ahead into the near future. What are you doing? Sarah asked. I'm going to look into the future and see what there is there to see, if anything. Sarah watched with interest. Okay, what do you see? Quiet, Sarah, Laika snapped. Will you dummy up? Kay, what do you see? He sighed. It doesn't look good, Sarah. The Jones know we're here on Bazz. They just don't know where exactly. If my creeper-addled sight is still to be trusted, bad things are going to start happening about an hour from now. First, the Jones are going to cut you off. Cut me off? Don't ask me how, but they managed to lock you out of the Bazz net, leaving me and Laika here alone. Then they take over all the city folk here, probably with a hypnosis wave. I see the locals wandering around outside like zombies, and they're all carrying Horvath creepers. They've also got an impressive amount of winger ships casing the planet. If we try to fly off, they're going to be all over us. Sarah checked her data. They're ramping up for something big. They're hiding it pretty well. You sure? As sure as possible. And then I see a huge storm blow in from the west, a big one, almost like a gale. This inn is going to be flattened and a large portion of the town is going to be flooded. If Queen Gome is a Geller, then she can control the weather. What then? I see my gifts getting swamped by the bloody creeper again. I see something about Shadow Tech. Shadow Tech. And then I see the machine. Taldaroga's there, and so is Queen Gome. By dawn, this mess is going to be decided one way or the other. Kay became confused. He struggled with his sight. What do you see? I'm not sure. I saw Endora, my mother's chief of staff, and she was holding a knife trying to kill me with it, no doubt. Then I saw a sky full of fireballs, like a meteor shower, and that was it. Everything else is blacked out. Kay turned to Laika. Laika, you better suit up and get ready to move. She took her plate back to the kitchen area and padded into her room. Kay stood and headed into his. Where are you going? Sarah asked as she worked. I'm going to do something I was hoping to avoid. And with that, we conclude part 2, chapter 12, Helios-Mason, another long chapter. Holy God. So, at last, the truth has come to light. We finally see what all of this story is about, that Queen Gome is after the machine. As I was writing this story, I was having a conundrum. Like, the story isn't progressing to my liking. It's, some cool stuff in it, but the whole Perlum tournament I'm getting bored with, and I need something to add spice. And then it dawned on me, it hit me, the machine. They've got this wondrous, miraculous machine sitting in their grove, one that has been around for centuries and can do things even the gods can't do. Such a machine would not be allowed to remain there unmolested. That machine is going to draw a lot of attention one way or the other. As Kay said, Wilhela Corman Grand, a noted chatterbox and tattletale, wrote all about the machine and how her Gogan specters, her slaves for the most part, cased Ethelrelda's temple after she had departed, the ruins of her temple, looking for the piece of the machine that she knew was in there. Couldn't find it. And she correctly surmised that the machine had been reassembled, probably in League space. Queen Gome sees this, or hears about this, and becomes fascinated. Queen Gome was, you'll see later, but she has a long association with this machine. And if it's something she can get her hands on, if this is something she can possess, then she will be the master of the past, present, and future. I mean, all those places will be readily available to her. She can just go wherever she wants. And being a maniacal sociopath, that's probably not a good thing. So all this, the Perlum tournament, the issues with the Wonderlux, the meeting of Taldaroga at Castle Blanchfort to see Sarah. He wasn't there to see Sarah. Well, he was there to see Sarah, but he was there to grill her for information. He hypnotized her and got it out of her that they had the machine in their grove, and she even showed it to him later on. And he had to make sure, okay, this is some crazy arcane device that's in your grove. We gotta see if this is actually the machine, the same one, from antiquity, the legendary one, the godlike one. And this Perlum quest, they wanted to see if they would actually use the machine to fetch some of the harder pieces to get, which they did. And then that proved it, that they do in fact have the Oberphiliacs created by Rivas of Want back in the early days of the League. And that's what she's been after the whole time. As Kay says, it's depowered and it's still hidden behind Lady Poe's very formidable Silvertech defenses. That is what she's leading Kay out for. She needs Kay to deactivate it so she can get at it. Anywho, one more thing. I mentioned the Galleon Tor, and that's the national animal of Bazz. Sort of like the kangaroo is like the national animal of Australia. The Galleon Tor is that for Bazz. it represents. And it kind of looks like a purple polar bear that usually has 6 legs. The problem with the Galleontor is that it doesn't eat. It was in danger of going extinct. A lot of the prey animals that it used to hunt, some of them disappeared, so it was starving to death. But it soon found a substitute to fill the gap, and it started developing a taste for human flesh. So that's all the Galleontor eats in the current day and age is human flesh. There's an order called the Order of the Gallicons, or kind of like zookeepers. They built that wall, separating the Gallian plain from Helios-Mason. They tend to the Galleontor, make sure it's doing all right, and they feed the Galleontor. They bring criminals, prostitutes, anyone who might be missed. The Gallicons supply the Galleontor with food, and if they can't secure anyone and it's time to feed, they draw lots and sacrifice one of their own. Just a little backstory trivia I thought you might want to know. Anywho, next week we are almost done with part 2. There's only 2 chapters left. Next week we continue part 2, chapter 13, A Bag of Shadow Tech. And this is one of my favorite chapters in the book. I just liked how it came out. And we will investigate that next week. In the meantime, this is Ren Presents. I am your host, Ren. Peace out.